Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
With the carnage of Daytona behind us, it's time to turn our attention to Atlanta for the Ambetter Health 400. Today we'll recap all that was our Drafkings lineups and our bets for the Daytona 500, as well as get you previewed for the Ambetter Health 400 as NASCAR heads to Atlanta. Hopefully the storm that kind of put a little mud into Sunday doesn't follow them, but given NASCAR's track record and the way they seem to find a few storm clouds to store in their hauler as they drive from race to race, we'll see what Sunday has on board. But Brian Twining, how the hell are you on this fine Tuesday?
I'm doing good, man. I have finally recovered from the shit show that was the Daytona 500. It just once again proved why you cannot get over your skis with that race. I mean, at one point, I believe I had tiny outright bets on the guys running 2 through 5, and all 4 of them wound up wrecking. And so, that just goes to show you cannot predict that race, no matter how much research, no matter how much data you have. It's just such a crapshoot. And I think we're heading to a similar style to a lesser extent in Atlanta. And so, again, it's going to be a very small week.
Yeah. I was feeling really good with Chris Bell near the front. I was feeling really good with Bowman as the top Chevy kind of by himself. At least I could cash that. If you missed out on the newsletter, make sure you are checking that out each and every week. You get that delivered to your email inbox every race day for free. aoppodcast.substack.com. The link is in the description. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. We get bets, we get Drafkings picks, we get all of our stuff in there. Speaking of Sunday's episode, we really, really appreciate everybody who checked out the episode. It was our most viewed episode ever, so that was exciting. Hopefully you stick around and enjoy all of our banter and all of our nonsense. Try and hit some bets in the meantime and have some success on DraftKings, as we are powered by Win the Race, wintherace.com. Incredible website, incredible resource, and more importantly, access to an incredible Discord with a lot of NASCAR degenerates firing off already Monday morning, Tuesday morning, looking for action, posting bets in the Discord, finding opportunities. And if you are in there, you get those opportunities and you go, oh, I like that, I'll jump on that too. So make sure you are checking that out. Also check out our friends over at Grid Rival. AOP 25 gets you 100% match deposit bonus up to $100. Our pick'ems didn't go well, our pick slips, mostly because Ryan Preece ended up upside down. Which is
that poor guy.
Second straight year, just kind of a little interesting. Otherwise, I would have had a monster day. And then at 6th, I think, in our contest. If you haven't jumped in our season-long contest,
still open.
Still plenty of time. You actually get the lowest score from the contest, so you'll start with points, which is nice. And it's a long season. We go through from now to the championship race. So, and then the winner gets, we'll get a sweet prize at the end. We haven't figured out exactly what that is at this point, but we'll do something really, really cool. So, with that being said, Brian, should we review the week that was before we get into the week that is?
Let's do it.
Okay, let me share my screen. I think I want to do
as this. Kyle looks this up. Let me just say, from a broadcast perspective, it was very refreshing to see Fox go to the side-by-side only commercials during green flag racing. It was nice not to be screaming at the television like I always do. Let's go to commercial while they're on the track and they're still racing. Yeah, so that was fun. And then, of course, I'm gonna bitch real quick before we jump in here, but the Phantom cautions have returned with Bubba Wallace in the lead right ahead of green flag pit stops. They throw a Phantom caution, and then he winds up getting shuffled to the back because John Hunter Nemechek, who wound up with a good finish, was running slow as shit and should never be leading a lane at the Daytona 500 ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was some interesting decisions. There was a 1 point Corey LaJoie and Ricky Stenhouse out front leading laps, which is not something anybody wants.
Well, the inevitable happened with that.
Yeah.
We all know what happened there.
Yeah. Stenhouse runs out of talent. Logano gets too aggressive. Everybody else ends up getting. There wasn't as much like broken cars driving around with duct tape as I kind of expected towards the end. Maybe
That's
there's
true.
just random bits of rain kind of help slide everything out. The optimal lineup this week on DraftKings was, in fact, Jimmy Johnson, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell, John Hunter Nemechek, and Ryan Blaney. So 16th for Blaney, 18th starting position for John Hunter, which is kind of interesting. It's always a debate on how far forward you really want to go. I think Blaney was definitely in play for me. John Hunter not so much, but obviously because of the way the race ended and what ended up being fine. The other guys, I think we had some exposure to most of them, and McDowell was the one that we were kind of like, do we, now that
Yeah.
he's not in FRM anymore. And then I don't know about you, but for me, seeing the Loves car and then trying to get my brain to go, that's not Michael McDowell, that's Todd Gilliland.
Yeah.
There was a few situations like that. And of course, Truex just crashing out on like the first like couple laps, and Barry Martin Truexing Daytona. But let's talk about our DraftKings lineups because we had some good stuff. We had some not so good stuff, and then we'll talk about it. So Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Michael McDowell, Noah Gragson, Justin Haley, Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson calls ended up working out really, really well. Obviously, when you're 5,500 and you're starting 40th and you finish third,
Yeah.
great week. Justin Haley was solid. Not as much roster percentage as I expected. Same with Gragson. Gragson was kind of crappy, but had some fast laps.
And he was up there at one
Had a
point too.
couple
Like
laps.
again, it just shows you like you have to be in the right place at the right time and avoid being in the wrong place at the wrong time
Yeah.
during this race.
I might look for some more. They have like the laps led bets you can get for like Daytona and probably Talladega rather than getting so much exposure to all the other stuff.
Yeah, but the
Um,
prices are not great. Believe me, I shopped those
nah,
markets and they were not good.
yeah. The other thing that I liked, we joined Chris Wormy for his pre-race poll on Sunday morning, and Highline Betting jumped on after we did, and he had some good targets in the to win stage 1, to win stage 2. I know a lot of the races, those markets are kind of gross and there's not a lot of opportunity, but at speedways I feel like
Yep.
if you can get big numbers on really good drivers, you could have opportunities. I had Alex Bowman for stage 1 and stage 2, and Martin Truex for stage 1 and stage 2, and I thought, and he actually shouted out Keselowski, but his number was obliterated by the time I got a chance to look at it. And there was all three of those guys had chances to win stages.
I will say though that the lack of green flag stops really affected the ability of guys to steal a stage
Yeah,
or something of that nature because the field just kept getting stopped and then restarted because of the rain stoppage and then the
yeah,
stupid wrecks and yeah, it was look, I'm assuming people are going to vote yes on that was a good race, probably going to be around the 70% mark. I'm going to guess maybe 75%, but it was just to me it was choppy
mm,
and we didn't see like good racing for an extended period of time.
yeah,
There's a lot of fuel saving once again, which sucks. And
yeah.
as aesthetically pleasing as it is to see them going 3 wide for lap after lap, like because I love watching that. They're not racing because you literally cannot race or make any moves when you're 3 wide.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's frustrating too because like stage 1 obviously ends under caution. So before anybody tries to make any moves to get anything done, and
Yeah.
obviously the rain delay, I was it's supposed to start at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and obviously there's all kinds of pre-race festivities, and the president's going around his truck or whatever, and
The
um,
beast.
yeah, so it's like, oh, now the race is delayed like 45 minutes, and then now there's rain, and now they're doing 12 laps under caution for no reason,
Oh
and
my
then they're
gosh,
putting
don't
them
even
on
get me
park.
started.
So it's just like it was just a bunch of that stuff, and then we were supposed to
Yeah.
go to a birthday dinner Saturday night or Sunday night. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll be the race will be long over by the time, and of course I'm watching the last 50 laps in the restaurant. But it was really cool because there was tables with all kinds of random people and some kids, and had the race on the big TV at the restaurant, and everybody was tuned in and they were watching the cars and watching them flip upside down and stuff. So hopefully I earned a couple new
Oh
NASCAR
man.
fans, at least temporarily, from that excursion. But
Yeah, that's Denny said it apparently on his podcast. I haven't had a chance to listen yet, but he
yes,
said it's like more about entertainment than it is about,
yeah,
integral racing.
Daytona, especially in the 500, feels more like a wrestling pay-per-view than a
Hence why they had William Byron on WWE Raw the
yeah.
following night.
I do like that NASCAR is doing that though. They're getting like he was on wrestling, he was on the
Completely
talk
agreed.
shows.
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney did the same thing after his championship run. It's really good exposure for the sport. And if we truly want to take it to the next
Yep.
level, and I know some, longtime NASCAR fans might get a little annoyed with some of it, but more people, more money, more opportunity. It's going to be good for the sport as a whole, lift everything up, give us more opportunity at the betting window, hopefully, more markets, all that good stuff.
All right. Now that we're done going off the rails there.
Yeah. We tend to derail just like the Daytona 500.
Yeah. Poor Ryan Preece, for instance.
This lineup was really fun because not only did Chris Bell, Josh Berry, Martin Truex, and Carson host of our crash, but it had Keselowski, who I told you, I think Saturday night when we were chatting before posting the newsletter, that I had a little more pessimism
Yeah.
for Keselowski as I was kind of finishing at my final research and stuff, and obviously it was super popular, so in theory shouldn't have crushed you, but he always seems to do much better in the hot races, and the 500 is just not his bag. So
I mean, and we called it too when we both realized. And by the way, I will reiterate this fact probably more times throughout this year as well. Kyle and I do not talk about our 3 DFS plays that we choose to write up in the newsletter. And sure enough, 2 of the 3 guys, Kyle and I piggybacked off each other. So we saw that and both of us said, we're doomed here because anytime that happens, we know it's going down.
They either win the race or it's horrible crash and they're out of the way. And then this one was pretty okay. Custer was decent. Suarez was actually really good. Stenhouse was fine. Priest was obviously frustrating.
And Ware was fine, like at one point,
Yeah.
and then he got caught up in the wreck. And then again, I want to just remind people one more time here. I don't think anybody can be walking around today taking victory laps over anybody that they played in DFS, over any bets that they made, because none of that shit was any sort of predictable whatsoever.
No, but you got to give yourself opportunities. Put yourself in position. Take your lottery tickets and see what you can
That is
cash.
true, but at the same time, I mean, like
I
Cole
was
Custer
so tempted to
running.
fire on Byron. I was like, he's 25. He won last year. He's really good.
He
But
had no effing business winning that race.
Oh, I agree. But that's how
Like,
Daytona works. And that's why I was tempted. And I know he could win the race. And he, unlike a lot of guys, I think a lot of drivers, if they're in that position, can't swerve to miss and get out in front of
he just
everybody.
went straight. It's like it's literally like Rick Hendrick called on God to open the Red Sea for William Byron to get through the carnage, and it happened.
9 pound, 8 ounce, baby Jesus.
And
Just slide all the traffic to the side and let William
even more
Byron just
evidence
go
of
right
that was
through.
that Tyler Reddick was running right behind Byron in that instant. They were both going for the same hole up on the top lane, and Reddick actually took some damage, which prevented him from even being able to compete with Byron at the checkered. Yeah. So, like, again, luck. This race has turned into luck.
Yeah. But it's fun. It gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of bets, I hit obviously Briscoe to win the pole, which was nice. Bowman top Chevy, I felt really good about that. I would make that bet again. Bowman to win, he was right there. Bubba, Briscoe, Bell. Bell was there at one point. It was fine. Logano over Denny. Whatever.
That was a
Carnage
value bet
happens.
though, because you got even
Yeah.
money. Like,
Yeah, and I got my Priest over Chastain, and the Watermelon Man was out quickly. So, winning week. I'll take it in Daytona. I don't like being. I'm happy to not be in the hole. And then your exclusive Cody Ware over Julio Castroneves bet, which you fired on.
look, I will again. I'm not going to take a victory lap on that because it just so happened that Castroneves got caught up in somebody else's shit again. But
Yeah.
it was inevitable that he was going to get caught up in some shit based on
And you
what
got a
we
good
had
price.
seen.
He was back at the Squirrels. He's learning to
Yep.
do this, and you got a good price. It all makes
Yeah.
sense. So 2-6 on the week for me, up 12.5 units, and you're 1-5, down almost 2 units, but very, very minor. Took some shots, had some opportunities. At the end of the day, wasn't there.
Yeah, that happens.
Anything else on the 500? DraftKings betting, anything else that you want to hit on before we jump into this week? Nope. Okay.
Man, I just, as a fan of the sport now, it's very frustrating the way that these races are ending. I mean, I would love to see them be able to race to the checkered without wrecking, which I think is why as we head to Atlanta, and one of the reasons why I don't really consider it as much of a super speedway was how we saw this exact race finish last year when it was Suarez, Blaney, and Kyle Busch. Instead of wrecking each other, like they actually raced it out, and you got
3
to see who
wide
got
for
there
the
first.
checkered, and obviously it helped that we both had Suarez and cashed that ticket.
I mean, honestly, I wanted Ryan Blaney to win just because if you've watched the show the last couple of years, like Blaney's one of our guys, but
Yeah.
like that was just fun to see them actually race and let the cars and their skill of driving take over the luck factor of just avoiding the wreck.
Which is why I'm a lot more optimistic about this week, switching over and talking about this week's race. Let me make this screen a little bit thinner so you can see win the race. Why is it so far over?
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with the people here. I have done very little price shopping this week.
It'll be fine.
Daytona has kind of disgusted me, I guess you could say.
But we knew that going in. All right. I don't want to save it as an... Okay. Thanks for your patience, everybody. I'm just adjusting, cleaning that up. All right. So Logano... I don't know why I did that. Logano, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Kyle Larson, and then Bubba Wallace is kind of the last guy. You could throw Suarez in there, but most of his numbers are in the 20s. So the books are like, I don't know. I got nothing for you. Just kind of jumble them all in there. So I guess initial leans, initial looks, who's jumping out, any of these numbers compelling to you from a price value potential opportunity standpoint?
Well, I mean, it's unavoidable the fact that Penske has been awesome as a
Mm-hmm.
whole at this track. I mean, I know Logano's the only one that has a victory on the new repave since Gen 7, the last 6 races, which I think are the only races that you can really factor into any sort of research this week. And he's won twice. But again, that being said, like you run the risk of this racing even at all similarly to a traditional super speedway like Daytona or Talladega and him getting caught up in a wreck. Knowing how aggressive Logano is, as we saw, that's always a risk. And then, you factor in 10-1, like
Yeah.
with that type of variance, I can't get down on that.
Yeah, at least at this point, there's no reason to jump in on that. Now, if we go through practice and qualifying, he looks like an absolute rocket. He's still going to be around 10-1. So if you want to be patient on Logano, I think at this point, we're really just trying to get in on some numbers that we think have potential to move between now and race day. So grab those numbers now. Someone like Logano, Blaney, even Cindric, who I like even at 12 is fine. I'm not really in a rush to get any of those guys.
Yeah.
I think the interesting stuff starts at like Chase Elliott at 17. I think is interesting. As you can see, he's 14 a couple other places, so you can get 17, 18, 20. I don't know, depending on like Fanduel and Drafkings both haven't dropped prices. Fanduel will probably drop either
On
later
Thursday.
today.
And no, DraftKings has prices, but I wonder if they're like limiting people's ability to draw from their API or something. But for instance,
Yeah, and it's usually like a thing where it takes time before it shows up. But my guess is,
Chase Elliott is 13 at DraftKings for
yeah,
what it's worth.
DraftKings always gives people the short end of the stick for sure.
Yeah.
Checking, yeah, Bet 365 is 14 as well. So, shop it, look for value. I think Chase Elliott's interesting enough if you can get the longer. At 14, I'm going to be patient and wait for it. Same with Byron. I think Byron, we saw this 2023, where Byron was just like dominant out the gate. We could that same thing could happen here. He could win the 500, win Atlanta, win Vegas, and all of a sudden he's just like in cruise control to the playoffs.
Well, and then you're going to get another comment by our buddy Chris, the next Jimmy Johnson, and then it's all downhill from there.
I hope if he does it to him again, like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Single-handedly ruining the dude's career.
Ooh.
Chris Bell, 17-18, Kyle Larson, 18, and then we start talking.
Okay.
Bubba?
No, if you follow me on Twitter last night before I went to bed, I want to say this was almost at 1 a.m. East Coast time. I threw out a little tidbit on the 6 Atlanta races. The driver that has the worst average finish in the 6 races is Noah Gragson at 31st. The driver that's just ahead of him with the second worst average finish here at Atlanta in the 6 races, none other than the sport's top talent and possibly the best driver in the world, Kyle Larson at 29.8. So whether it's luck, whether it's just his inability to figure out super speedway racing, which it sounded like Jeff Gordon actually called him out, plain and simple, after the Daytona 500 for his inability to improve here. Kyle Larson is an absolute avoid, fade, bet against in matchups if you get the right price. Like zero interest with him here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, given where his number sits, I doubt we'll see any opportunities, but we'll always be on the lookout.
Well, I think there is if they give us the right matchups, because I do think as we look at the odds board right now on the screen, the 2 Trackhouse guys of Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain have both been up front at this track on numerous occasions. Suarez has the second best average finish here inside 8th place, second to only Ryan Blaney, and he won this friggin' race last year. So,
yeah.
Again, whether or not you agree with this being a super speedway, that's up for debate, but there's definitely something there to Daniel Suarez performing at this track.
Do you prefer Suarez at 22 to Ross Chastain if you can only get 22? Or do you prefer the Watermelon Man?
Man. I mean, 22 is not a bad number. I don't mind getting down on that. I mean, something I said during Wormy's pre-race poll also is like, for me at the super speedways, it's 20 or longer only for outrights. And so, sticking by that, I think Suarez at 22 especially is not a bad bet.
Yeah, and obviously you can bet both of them, but, I'm trying to hold Brian's feet to the fire. So it sounds like you're Suarez over Chastain.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's somebody in the Win the Race Discord, again, jump in there. It's fantastic. Horses for courses. Like, there is something to that.
Yeah. Busher, once again, you can get a 25 on him. He's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like 25. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's another guy who tends to show up with these kind of track types. Brian, I'm once again asking you to back Chase Briscoe.
No.
he had a good car on Sunday. I think I told Wormy when I was talking to him, I want to buy in. Um, I've seen I don't love 25 as much. But if you can get 30, I think it's worth grabbing, and I'm going to grab it.
Yeah, no, zero interest for me there.
That's fine.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to be honest with people. There's not a lot that I'm interested in this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, at this point, like, I think one of the things that we did the best last year as the season went along is be a lot more patient with opportunities and numbers. BetMGM. There's no reason to fire off 6 bets before when the numbers just drop, unless your volume's crazy. But like,
Yeah.
My goal is to be patient and wait for the opportunities to come find me, and then when the opportunity appears, then jump on it. And I'm more than happy, assuming there isn't some screaming value on somebody who I think can absolutely win the race, and they're at 45 or 50 or whatever. If you want to, we'll just wait till the race, till after practice, after qualifying, things settle. We've talked about it before, but like, I'd much rather bet a car that I trust and saw was awesome in practice at 10 or 12 instead of getting them at 14 and realizing they're dog doo-doo on Sunday. But I think a 30, 35, 40 that you think could go to, say, 20, it's worth grabbing a little exposure. Even if it's like your normal bets, say $50, put $20 on it now. And then if it looks awesome and it does what you expect in practice, put the other 30 on it. If your bet's, $20, put 10 and 10. Like, there's ways to do it. Obviously, as you scale up, you can, to do the math. But I think that's an interesting way to kind of get some exposure to numbers without getting overexposed and completely blowing your bankroll. It's crazy to me that Ryan Preece is just like doing an interview after like flipping upside down 75 times, by the way, as we
Yeah,
kind of get into the longer range.
I just don't understand how it's always him. like what are
Ryan,
the
there's
chances?
probably something you're doing that you probably shouldn't be.
God. And then
Maybe he's just in the right place with the squirrels, but yeah, this is the second year in a row he's been upside down.
like it was so my wife,
My
just a
wife.
little disclosure, she hates watching NASCAR because she's been in a few like bad wrecks in cars, and so she has like PTSD. So she doesn't like watching, especially Daytona, because she knows that there's wrecks. But when they were showing the replay of Ryan Preece essentially doing like a stall ollie or whatever it's called in skateboarding,
Yeah, he's doing like a manual, but
yeah,
like,
yeah, manual. Even she like turned to me and said, "Wow, that doesn't look real." And I said, "No kidding. Like that should not be happening."
yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like that in theory, like, I don't even really think it was his fault. I think it was just all the stuff around him, and then he ended up getting
Yeah.
kind of popped up in the air. But it is good to see how far these cars have come, in terms of safety and all that stuff.
But it is
Um,
I think too though, the fact that the bottoms are completely closed off and flat, if these things get anywhere near to tipping, it's a windscreen, and so it's going to
yeah,
affect it and cause that to happen.
yeah, yeah. I
Like
wonder
there's
if
no
there's
airflow.
they put airflow, but I wonder what that does to the car. Like, 'cause I need somebody much smarter than me to explain that.
Yeah.
I see you added somebody to the betting card. Go ahead and tell the fine people who you added and your thought process there.
Yeah, so I'm going to play that 28 number on Alex Bowman just with the thought process of Hendrick kind of showing up always at both Daytona and here in Atlanta. And when you have guys like Byron, Larson, and Chase Elliott all well above him and with shorter odds, Bowman, yeah, he doesn't have the best resume here, but he's a guy who we've seen pop before, and somehow or another he found his way near the front again at Daytona after just kind of riding around this past Sunday. So 28, I think it's worth a small play. Again, I'm playing a quarter unit. It's past that threshold that I talked about of that 20 price. So I'll take the 28. And if he does wind up qualifying well, it's probably around 25, 23 longest. So yeah, I'll take a smaller bit of value.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Larson's struggles. The fact that he's like 8 points longer than Larson's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And like the 20 isn't as compelling. Even would you bite at 25 or do you need that like 28?
I think 25 would be fine. I think that's kind of the range where, like, even last week I was kind of attacking was the 25 and longer.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guys with the 20 prices are a little less appealing. Like, as good as Bubba Wallace is at Daytona, I wouldn't consider him a legit contender here in Atlanta. It's just a different style of racing because it's not traditional super speedway racing. It's all about track position. And when you look at that, you also have to factor in pit crew performance and all that type of stuff. So
Yeah, no, I think that's all completely fair. What about the next range? We have some interesting names, guys that we'll tend to gravitate towards in speedways. Eric Jones, Michael McDowell, Gilliland, Josh Berry, Justin Haley, Ricky Spinouts, the Dinger who ran like one lap and was already out of the race. Anybody appealing to you from this range?
no, just no. Let me just name off the 6 guys that have won here at the New Atlanta: William Byron, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, William Byron, Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano.
So what you're saying is we should bet William Byron and Joey Logano and log out
No, what I'm saying is
or one
that
of the other guys so they can get that second
this
win.
is not a race where these middle tier guys are going to somehow find a way to win. To me,
Which is why I like New Atlanta. Is as much as it is kind of a super speedway light, it definitely seems like you actually have like there's not as many luck box finishers like we've seen in Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely Atlanta is as important, probably more important than Daytona when it comes to track position too, because it's a little bit narrower, so it's harder to go 3 wide. So even when they're running 2 wide, it's a little more difficult to create that third lane. And so, you want to be up front, and the guys that are with the better teams who have the better pit crews, who, have been in these situations a lot more up at the front, more familiar with running in that area, are just the ones that are winning these races. And so like these middle tier back of the pack guys, I just don't see them lucking into a victory.
What about luck box LaJoy? 2 top
Hell
5s
no.
here.
Look, we used to ride LaJoy for those long shots at Daytona and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. But I mean, essentially, when you look at it from a financial perspective, we've just been donating to the sports book every friggin' time because this guy hasn't done it. And honestly, I'm going to take the same approach we did with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. before he won the 500. Like, you got to prove it to me first before you regain my money backing you at the sports book.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Anybody else? Any other names you want to mention, or is it just Alex Bowman at this point and you're good?
I mean, for me, I think just it's Bowman. I would play Suarez, but I don't know. I just don't see him winning the same race 2 years in a row. And then
fair.
everybody else is just too short for my liking. I'm not playing anybody shorter than 20 for this race. There's much more variance at this track than there is at traditional like 1.5s, and so I don't want to get involved with those numbers. That you can see similar numbers when we head to Las Vegas or when we head to Phoenix, and I think those are much more likely to hit based on practice and stuff. Whereas here, we really don't have a clue until Sunday comes.
Yep. Let's throw up Caesars here, and we can look at some other stuff to see if there's any potential value. So we have Kyle Busch leading the way as the top Chevy, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Alex Bowman at 12-1. I'm gonna fire on that again.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's not a bad play.
I mean, especially considering he's 28-1 to win the race. If you bet him just to top Chevy, obviously, and I'm gonna heed my own advice here, and I'm gonna add Bowman to the outright card as well, especially at that 28. I recommended that in the Daytona newsletter, and just it's good. It's good if you think a race is going to come down. Like last week, I felt a lot better about Bowman as a top Chevy because I felt like, oh well, this is probably a Ford race, maybe a Toyota sneaks in there, and then the Chevys are all kind of mismatched, and for them to be priced so aggressively different, I think doesn't make as much sense. This week, I feel like there's a little more stiff competition from the Chevys. We've seen Kyle Busch be good. Obviously, Byron's won here a couple times. The Trackhouse guys. So you definitely, if you're splitting your bet, you want to definitely grab some outright exposure because if he tops Chevys, then he's going to be contending and having a really good chance to win the race as opposed to last week. So last week's bet I think was a little bit better of a top Chevy bet, but I think this week I'm going to at the 12-1 price based on some of the things Brian said and some of my expectations of Bowman makes sense. And I'm going to grab some of that 28 just because that 28 feels a little bit of an outlier to kind of the rest of the numbers.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to attack this race. And then I also think just kind of looking at like last year's races and then prognosticating what we're going to see here. The first stage, if I'm not mistaken, can be run without stopping for fuel. And so when you're looking at like stage bets this week, try to find guys that you think are going to qualify near the front because I don't think anybody's going to try to risk pitting under green with the pit road entrance actually being on the backstretch before you even get into 3. Like this place is a funky ass pit road, and guys like Kyle Busch for me are like avoids because he's one of the biggest victims of being penalized on pit road. So, I think going back to the stage bets, there are some decent numbers this week that I think you can maybe shotgun that instead of even looking at outright because that's probably way more predictable than winning the race.
Yeah, and obviously, you have to kind of wait and see what happens, but like there may be some opportunity, especially like Brian said, if guys qualify well, they could have a let me see best average start. So Blaney tends to qualify, obviously Logano, Chase Briscoe.
That was a Ford though. Remember, look, I don't care he put it on pole Daytona. I do not care. That's a one-off.
13-1 to win stage 1.
No, that's a one-off. So I am okay, just for some fun, so that way I'm not party pooper this week. I am going to play a stage bet right now. Austin Cindric 11-1 to win stage 1.
That feels good because I liked Busher, but 16-1 versus Cindric, who's been much better at 11.
I was just going to say, and Cindric is probably going to qualify near the front.
Yeah, that's interesting. Elliott at 9, Chris Bell at 25, Suarez at 18 to win stage 1. I kind of like that.
Suarez only has one start inside the top 10 here at Atlanta.
Logano 7.
I like how you just kept going.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep moving. That's fine.
Yeah, it's just like an immediate piece.
We should look for we should look at qualifying bets because if we can get like Kyle Busch versus Kyle Larson, maybe we can find some value there. Reset 40.
Nah.
Tyrone Dillon, do we trust him? Do we trust what we saw last week? He looked really good at Daytona, but is that more of a Daytona thing or is that more of a Dillon's?
That's Daytona. Remember, we just talked about how Atlanta has deviated.
Byron at 14.
What's that?
Byron at 14.
That I don't hate. I don't hate that, but
I love it.
It's also not
what was Cindric was like 16, right?
13. No, 11. 11. But Cindric has so when you look at average starts here, and then based off of what we saw also at Daytona, I think it's fair to assume that the Penske boys probably outside of Ryan Blaney for some reason. I don't know if maybe just Atlanta's different for him. He's got the best average starting position at this track, but he never qualifies well at Daytona, so maybe that's just an outlier. But the Penske guys are 3 of the top 4 best starting positions here at Atlanta.
Yeah. Pulling up some of the previous races because let's see if there's anything that jumps out. So like McDowell,
And Ford again.
yeah, he started on the pole in 2024 and finished first. Logano started on the pole and finished first. Byron started 12th and finished first. Who was on the pole that race? Chase Briscoe.
Logano.
Briscoe started first in 2022 and wasn't even in the top 10 after the first lap. So that's kind of interesting. Or after the first stage, rather.
Yeah. Yeah, two of the last 3 winners started 18th or worse. Byron in fall of 2023 and then Suarez spring last year.
Yeah. All right,
but I don't know if that's a large enough sample size to be
making decisions.
Yeah. I think that's we're still in 2 youngest stages to be using that data.
Yeah. Let's see here. Winning manufacturer Ford to plus 150. I hate that.
To win?
Yeah.
Chevy's won 4 of the 6 though. Like
that's fair. But it's just so hard seeing like the Penske garage specifically. Maybe you just go Penske instead of.
But that's the thing right there is like it's essentially it's Penske, which they've won. I did a quick little thing. They've won 4 of the 19 super speedway races in the Gen 7 era. Good for about 20%.
How do we feel about Briscoe at plus 550 to win Top Toyota? Like, I don't like the Toyota. I feel like the Toyota is open. Like Eric Jones at 9-1 makes sense.
Yeah, but that's so. I was thinking the same thing. I was interested to see what his numbers came out at, but I'm not betting Eric Jones at single digits to be a top manufacturer. That just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's because there's less cars, there's less opportunity, and there's nobody like Logano or like Kendrick. So
yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I'd need double digits on Eric Jones and Legacy.
So if you had 10 versus 9, you would be fine.
No, like mid-teens here, there, mid-teens. Kind of like that John Hunter Nemechek range, that 15 to 17 range. John Hunter Nemechek, 25-1. Why not just play that? I mean, think about it. He only has 9 cars or 8 other cars to compete with.
That's true.
And at 25, I don't think that's a terrible $1 bet. Like,
yeah, I'll see winning.
I mean, you're not winning anything, but
Penske. So would you rather bet Penske at 3-1 to win the race?
No, I'm not playing that.
It's not bad.
I would rather.
It's double the Fords. When we just talked about Fords being like basically Penske or bust. You get 3 guys kind of like inside 10-1 or around 10-1. 11, 950, and 9.
Yeah, but I think you could probably shop these. Hold on. I mean, they're 8 at Bet Rivers.
Trackhouse at 10-1 to somebody there.
Here you go. So you play Hendrick as a team.
Uh-huh.
And then you play the Penske guys on MGM. 10, 10, and 12. I would rather play that than play Team Penske at 3.
Yeah, so if you put 100 on Team Penske, it's basically
300.
$300. You get $400. If you take that same 100, it's
You could bet 35-35 on both 10 guys, and then you could bet 30 on Cindric at 12. And you're winning 360 minus the 70, so you're winning 2 something. But you also can then back that up with Hendrick. Like, I don't think you're going to sit here and play both Penske and Hendrick at 3 and 4.5.
No, that's probably true.
You know?
Yeah. These are the debates you have, people. Figured out what makes the most sense. I don't like RCR.
RCR. I'm going to get on my soapbox real quick once again. The Kyle Busch love has got to stop.
It's not going to.
When are people going to realize?
Never.
Like, he is on the downturn, a massive downturn.
He's been on a massive downturn.
That's what I'm saying.
We faded the hell out of him last year. It was great. People are brainwashed into thinking it's going to go away this year, and it's going to be back. So it's fine. Let's look for ways to take advantage of it and make money.
I guess, yeah. It's just like
he's helping other numbers be lower or longer.
Yeah.
I was looking for qualifier, but I don't see fastest qualifier, at least at this point.
Oh, they don't have that out yet? Nah. Honestly, they might not even post it just because they assume that it's going to be Logano or Cindric.
Or Chase Briscoe, and they know I'm going to hammer the shit out of it.
Oh, my gosh.
Anything else you want to look at, Brian? I guess we look at some matchups, see if there's anything interesting. Suarez versus Buescher. Byron versus Larson. Logano Blaney. Ty Gibbs, Chastain over Ty Gibbs is kind of fun.
Yeah, I actually don't mind that. Again, though, the price, though, is difficult. Like, I don't like 115. I'd prefer minus 110, which is kind of the traditional.
Well, sure. I prefer plus money over minus money, but like there's markets.
I don't know. It's hard to lay that on this track, although it's it's a little bit safer. It's a little bit easier to predict, but I do think you will get opportunities later in the week when they open up some of the markets for like that stupid Cody Ware versus Ilio one that I grabbed. I think a lot of times those are the matchups that you can take advantage of because there's less data on guys and they're not necessarily as looked at. That particular matchup is taking on less of a handle too. So,
all right, on. Well, it was good to get back. It was good to review all that was Daytona. Let us know in the comments. How'd you guys do on DraftKings? How'd you guys do at the betting window? Did you win money on Grid Rival? And let us know who's standing out for you at this point. Like, is there any bets you're firing on right away? Anybody that's really compelling in terms of numbers? All that good stuff. As of right now, Brian has Alex Bowman to win at 28, and then he has Austin Cindric. That's the stage 1 bet.
Oh yeah, I got to put that.
And that's at 11-1, both on Caesars. I have Briscoe at 30, which is at MGM. I have Alex Bowman at 28, and Alex Bowman to top Chevy at 12. Those are both on Caesars. So split my bet. Instead of doing 1 unit on the outright, I did a third of a unit to win, and seventh of a unit to top Chevy at 12-1, and then I did a full unit on Briscoe. Wading into the waters ever carefully. I'm very proud of us, Brian. We're not firing away. I'm sure by the time we recap on Saturday night and do our newsletter, our card will look really, really ridiculous. But
100%.
At this point, we're being calm and slow. And we're going to let practice and qualifying dictate. So we will be back after practice and after qualifying. When the running order is set and everything. I believe it's early on Saturday. So we will record on Saturday at some point, probably in your feed just Sunday morning. But if you hit the subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications, as soon as our new video posts, you'll get a notification that we dropped a new episode. You can check it out. You can also check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, if that's more convenient. Obviously, the YouTube way is the ideal way to go because you can see the odds as we post them. We can see all of our screens, all that good stuff. Just a better experience for everybody. Make sure you join the Listener League at Grid Rival. And if you want to throw a little deposit while you're there, you can do some pick slips for the Atlanta race. AOP 25 gets you 100% match deposit bonus up to $100. And then check out our friends over at Win the Race. Let them know we sent you if you decide to subscribe. It's definitely worth the investment. The Discord is incredible. And we got a long season, so let's jump in there. Let's chat NASCAR. and all that good stuff. Make sure you follow us at AOP Podcast on Instagram, at FPAOP on Twitter. All the links and everything will be in the description. Let us know who you like. Let us know how you did at Daytona. We'll be back on race day to get you set for the Ambetter Health 400. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you next.